Hello, and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about pop culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm Brooke Brigham. I'm the attorney.
And I'm Tess Brigham. I'm the therapist.
So we're here to talk about Love is Blind Season 4. And our intention was we were going to watch the live stream reunion this evening.
Should we tell them exactly? Well, it's Sunday, April 16th, 6:44 p.m. right now.
Never forget.
Never forget where you were.
Yes.
I just also want to know, I was napping until 5 o'clock. My husband woke me up. I was in a really nice nap state because I was very tired. He woke me up. I got myself all ready, sat down and thought it was me. And for an hour plus, I was just, refreshing, figured,
Yeah. So this this allegedly live reunion was supposed to start at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were both, ready and waiting. And, first it's 5:05, it's 5:15, and it's 5:30.
Yeah.
And so everyone's checking the internet. Like, is this me or...
Yeah.
And it became very clear very quickly that no, it's everywhere. There's a big problem.
Yeah. The other thing is, this isn't their first live event, right? Because I watched the Chris Rock live and they weren't these problems. There weren't.
Well, apparently the Chris Rock audience was not this big.
I guess not. Like everybody, this shows you how many people care about this or how many people were tuning into this. It's crazy.
So basically it's now 6:45 p.m. We just got on. We said, okay, well, it's happening tonight.
Yeah.
And so we just decided, well, we'll come on. We'll record the, we'll talk about the finale. Episode 12, the rest of the weddings and whatnot. And I don't know when we'll get to see the reunion, but
yes,
we'll come back later and record that and try to hopefully put these two things together.
My assumption is, listener, by the time you listen to this, we will have both of these things together. This is our promise to you. But
hopefully, as
we speak to you right now, we're, this has been quite a conundrum this Sunday evening.
Yeah. Well, and also, but it's been very funny to see the tweets, the memes, everyone's just going after Netflix. Netflix is highly, highly embarrassed. But then towards the end there, I guess some people in certain parts of the world and the country were able to access it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting these kind of blips of the reunion, but it was a buffering thing. It was like one of these things where it starts and then it just stops and it freezes. And I did catch a glimpse of Chelsea's earrings.
Oh,
and they're hideous. They're even more hideous than her wedding day earrings.
Oh God.
So that's,
and I got a glimpse of Micah because I told you that because I got on and we're like, oh, Micah. And then it flashed, it went away. It was Micah was wearing red. And that was it. That's all I saw.
Okay.
And that was it. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah. But Friday, a few days ago, they released the very last episode 12. So it was a cliffhanger.
Yes.
It was left. The last episode was Chelsea and Kwame's wedding, and Chelsea said, I do, or I will, whatever they say. So it was a cliffhanger. We did not know what Kwame was going to say. And I think, surprisingly, to everyone's surprise, he said, I do.
Yes. Shocked. I did not see that coming.
No, he just seemed so uncertain. And he was the one who voiced the most doubts throughout the whole entire season. So that was surprising.
Well, and they aired all of those doubts. We were talking about this earlier, that there was a Variety article that came out with one of the producers from Love is Blind talking about how, Brett is also from Portland. Mm-hmm. We never hear about this ever. We visit Brett's apartment. It's never talked about. It's never an issue. And the producers say, well, it's not so much of an issue for Brett, but it's like, well, but I can imagine for Brett, that is a bit of a problem. He has a life there too. But this Kwame thing, it just felt like this was a huge issue for him, and he kept talking about it, and it was over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And so it just seems so odd that after all of that complaining and all of that, that it was like, I do. I was like, okay.
Yeah. I was like, okay, why not? We'll give it a try.
But I still felt like even in that private time that they had, it was a lot of like, cheers to forever. And she just kept saying, you're my husband. And he seemed to be like, yes, I am. Like he still seemed in shock. Just like, yes, I am your husband. Like I did say yes. Like, you know, I don't know.
I don't know either. Cause there's still the whole thing with his family. And I heard somewhere that woman was not even his sister. She's like a paid actor.
What? Are you serious?
Yes.
No.
That's a total rumor. I don't know if it's true, but it's out there.
Well, if she is, she's good.
She's a good actress.
She's an excellent actress.
She acted very happy when he said, I do. And but I think that was part of the problem. Like literally his family refused to participate in any of this. And they had to perhaps maybe hire somebody to pretend to be his sister. So I don't know. I don't have super high hopes for the longevity of this.
Well, if they had, I'm sorry, but we have seen lots of families who were on the fence about a lot of this stuff. If you had to hire, and I mean, I guess for Chelsea, I don't know, why is Chelsea going along with this? Like, why do you need to hire a sister? Like, why? You don't need to do any of those things.
It's television. You know, I mean, the bottom line is this is a television show, and you know, there's certain elements that they have to fudge to make it entertaining. And, you know, it's like the curtain gets pulled back.
But we didn't need to see, I don't know. We didn't need to see a family member. Like we didn't need
we could just be like, and his family's not here. That in and of itself, that's just the truth.
But so we didn't need to I don't know if there's something off about that. I just don't feel like these people were that good.
Well, and while we're on the subject of Chelsea and Kwame, so there was this article interview in Variety. Is it a magazine or I guess maybe just online now? With the creator of Love Is Blind, Chris Colin. And we'll try to post it. We will post it. We'll post it on our Instagram.
Not try. We will.
We will do it.
We will. We can and we will.
Yeah. And he was saying that, you know, in terms of this Portland thing, when they're casting people, he said they try to choose people who at least say they are interested in being married, but most people are very skeptical about it. Mm-hmm. And they felt that the location was reasonable to open it up to Portland. It's about 2 hours from Seattle. And then he said, Brett is in Portland. And it wasn't as big of an issue for him as it was for Kwame. And he also said that he had no idea that Kwame was on Married at First Sight. Because that show, that season, that was in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And I guess Kwame was living there at the time. Anyway, he was never featured on the show. They did not recruit him because of that show. He kind of like acted like he had no idea. So,
yeah, it was interesting.
I like that. We try to choose people who at least say they are interested in being married.
Yeah. Okay. Well, because I think that obviously they try to find people that are attractive and engaging, right? Who will make good TV, but I think they get a lot of people that say, hey, you know, prove me wrong. If I find somebody I think they want people that will say, if I find someone that I really fall in love with, that I think will be my soulmate, I would marry them with sight unseen.
Right.
And I think that's all these people said yes to that for sure. Okay. So now we're on to Micah and Paul. Mm-hmm. And first it's Micah and it's raining. And so you're right. They were all at one place. Mm-hmm. It was really, really beautiful. Mm-hmm. I did finally get to look at it. And then, you know, this is when they shove all these weddings into one episode. And I understand why they do this, but it does get to be really redundant.
Yeah.
Where it's like, here she comes and let's rehash our love story. And now we're back to like Shelby, and Shelby's not happy and thinks he sucks. And, here's Paul, and Paul's there, and he shows up, and he's got like a masculine room because his room has poker in it. And it's just
and
so
wood.
silly.
And
yes. Yeah. It's just so ridiculous. And like all the friends are coming in and talking about it. And obviously the vibe is so, that's so bizarre here because it's very clear that how this dynamic is, Micah is very much like, I love him, but I don't know. I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know what this is going to be. This is so weird. This is my wedding day, but I don't know if it's going to be my wedding day. I don't know what this is going to be. And Paul the entire time is like, I don't know. Do I go with my head or my heart? I love her, but I don't know. Does this make sense? I'm a scientist. I go with my head, just the same story that we've been circling and circling. And I know they have to fill an hour of television, but it is so.
Oh, I fast forward.
I know. I fast forward through a lot of this.
Lot of that. Like, oh my God. Paul's friends were droning on, and I couldn't take it. He had this one friend, I don't know his name, but he's saying all this contradictory stuff. He's saying that Paul's getting in his own way, like he always does. But then he turns around and he says something like, it's just risky to say no as to say yes. I don't know. I didn't find his advice very helpful.
Yeah.
I don't think Paul did either.
Well, everyone just keeps saying, well, you'll know when you follow your gut.
Yeah, all these cliches. It's like, this isn't helpful. Like, especially with Paul and Micah's families, they were very unhelpful. And Micah's dad was saying,
you notice that he was dry. This was the best. I just started noticing these little things. Her dad was drinking a White Claw.
Oh,
I thought that was so weird. Like something that a teenage girl, like a college girl would drink, like a White Claw.
Yeah, I know. And you could tell, like, the dad he's saying stuff like, well, Micah, you've put us through a lot here. And the mom, clearly, she's being very practical. Mm-hmm. No, I don't think she thinks in any way that this is going to work. And she's just trying to get through this day. And I might have my notes here. I said that Paul seems so unsure. Paul doesn't know what to do. And Paul's dad gives the worst advice. He says, as long as you love her and she loves you, everything will be all right. I mean, if only.
Yeah.
If only.
Well, and also, mind you, Paul's father is now on his second marriage to someone who looks just like Paul's first wife.
And it could be his third marriage, but we don't know.
Yeah. But that was the other thing. When Paul Sr. came in, Paul's father, there's like 3 Pauls involved. Mm-hmm. When Paul Sr. comes in with Deborah, the stepmom, at first I was like, wait a second. Is that the mom? No, this is someone different.
No, it's her lookalike.
Yeah. And I was just like, yeah, dad has a type. And he's like, well, hey, you just kind of, this is how it goes. And it's just like, oh God, you guys are exhausting this whole family.
Yeah.
And then there's Shelby, but yeah, Paul really started to irritate me here. I was just like, this is too much.
Well, maybe this was sort of Shelby's redemption.
It was Shelby's redemption.
Just because she was right. Like,
I hated admitting it, but yeah. So we finally get to the, the altar, and Paul walks down and Micah walks down. And then of course, Micah famously says, hey, before I answer, I'm going to have you answer, Paul.
Now, do you think that indicates that she knew he was going to probably say no? She didn't want to be humiliated.
Yeah, I do. I think she had this feeling, and she did. She said it. She said, I never felt safe. I never felt it. I think she had this inkling feeling. Mm-hmm. And I think that was really interesting because the way they talked to each other, that was the part that was so strange, was that the way they talked to each other, like, I love you, I miss you. Even when they saw each other at the altar, they're like, oh my God, I missed you. I haven't seen you in so long. I missed you so much. And so that's why I thought, like, okay, maybe maybe you guys are really in love. Maybe I was wrong. And then when it came to this day, and there was so much, like, so pensive, and he's like going in circles and he's analyzing it, and you're just like, oh, you're really on the fence. Like, you weren't on the fence when you were missing her after 2 minutes a couple days ago, but now you're really on the fence. But I think that Micah doesn't want to be vulnerable. She is not going to be vulnerable with people. And that this whole situation, this whole process was very, very vulnerable. And you notice that's how she was the whole time, this whole process. You know, she kept Kwame going on the line until she knew Paul was going to do that. She wasn't going to, you know, even that time when she had to let Kwame go and she was waiting for Paul to let Amber go. Like, that was really hard for her.
It's like she wants a sure thing.
Yes.
She would rather have a sure thing than go after what she really felt.
Yes.
In her heart. Yeah. And when it came down to it, we can go backtrack, but at the very end, when it came down to it, Paul said he didn't feel that his love for Micah was reciprocated, and he didn't envision her as a mother, and she had no nurturing aspects about her.
Yeah.
So the vulnerability, that's what got him. It was just like, she was like, she wants to be chosen. She doesn't want to be, end up being with no one. And she wants to get married, but she just wants like the outcome, and she doesn't care about
the process or having to feel anything.
Right.
But you know what? He's very similar in this too, right? Because he's such a scientist. He also is focused on the outcome. He wants assurances. He keeps going around to all these family members saying, well, I want to know 100% that this is going to work out, that this is, and everyone keeps looking at him going, hey, buddy, we're all 30, 40 years older than you. And we're telling you, we've lived these lives and there are no assurances. So stop asking and just like take a deep breath and ask, look inside of yourself and say, like, and this is what I say to my clients, like, do you want to go to Target on a Saturday with this person? Do you want to eat across from them? Do you want to do these things with them? And if you don't, and I think I think the things that he was talking about, like, I don't think she's very nurturing. I don't think she's, those things. I think that's what he was figuring out. Like, I don't know if I want to do that with her. I don't know if she's going to be like getting up in the middle of the night with kids with me. Like, I don't know if that's really what this is going to be.
And then Micah also says that she never felt safe, or that he showed her that he loved her. So she had a certain expectation of what love or being loved, or how he should show her love, like what that should look like. And then, so then when he said he didn't want to get married, she kind of stormed off, and Paul goes after her and she tells him to leave. And of
course, the best moment was when he said no. The camera went back to Shelby, and Shelby was sitting there smiling. And, she said, of course, that great line where she said she wishes she was way drunker.
Yeah.
Oh, Shelby's she's a winner. She really is.
Yeah, obviously.
But she
knows her friend.
She knows her friend.
She knew her friend.
But did she really? But did she not like Paul for this reason? Like, I still feel like this wasn't the reason why she didn't like Paul. I think that I don't know.
Well, I think she knew that Paul just wasn't going to give Micah, the kind of attention that she wanted. And, that I just think Micah's more superficial.
Yeah.
And he's just like a deeper kind of, just a deeper person.
Well, but I also wonder too, if Micah is deeper with him than she is with Shelby and her friends. And I just thought it was so interesting on that last night, the bachelor and bachelorette parties, where Micah and her friends are getting super drunk and then calling Paul, and, Paul's just ignoring them. I do wonder if stuff like that, where he's kind of like, who is this person? Like, this doesn't line up with you're this way with me, and then you're this way with these people. I just also think they were all really too young. And I think what Paul really wants, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is what we hear on the reunion, I think what Paul really wanted was to keep dating her.
Yeah. Get to know her.
I think, and so the best is, everyone's like packing up and going, and Paul's wandering around. He's like, did I make the wrong choice? And you're like, fuck you, Paul. You're exhausting, Paul.
You
like,
are exhausting.
Oh God. It's just, let's just go. Like the family friends are just like, let's go home. Let's just, God.
This has been torture. It's been a torturous afternoon. Can we please go?
The whole family's like, you fly out here. We're all dressed up. We've had to go through this emotional nightmare. Let's just go home. We thought we were going to get a meal. There's no meal.
There's no reception.
Yeah, there's no reception. Nobody likes us because we're part of the family that said no. We don't even get to be the victims in all of this. Like, we got to get out of here. It was just like,
that was a wild ride.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was just, that's what I had to fast forward through so much of it because God, it was mind numbing. It was like, okay, like just make a decision. I don't know. God, Paul.
Yes. It
Grow
was
a pair.
Yes. Well, and I think that's the other problem, right? Which is, I think that he, right? I think that's the other part about when you find someone that you really, that some of those cliches are true, because when you do find someone that is right for you, you do know. You don't spend a lot of time questioning.
Right.
I mean, I'm married. I didn't spend a lot of time behind closed doors, like going, should I marry this person? Should I not? Is this going to work? Is this not? Like, by the time you get there, like, I believe this is going to work,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, granted, they've only had like a couple weeks. So they have a bit of a disadvantage. But.
Yes. Well, let's move on to clear skies, because this was clear skies, and then it started to rain, but clear skies.
But it was glorious.
Yes, it was. It was so glorious. All of it.
Yes, Tiffany and Brett, and literally the only thing that went wrong on this day was that Brett's pants weren't altered correctly.
Well, so that was the big, right? We were all worried.
The big drama
that we were all worried about. We were like, God damn it, you mothers, don't do this to us. Don't rip this out from underneath us. And it was all about his pants. And it was like, oh, thank God, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So the first thing I thought when Tiffany got there and walked into the room and they show you the charcuterie board, I'm like, I wonder if they recycle these charcuterie boards. They're like, okay, Micah's gone. Okay. Nobody ate anything.
Nobody touched it.
I think we can redo the honeycomb and the salami. Let's just redo it.
Yeah. We're already over budget.
Yes.
We need to just recycle.
So we get this recap of love story. Both sides talk about their feelings. And I think what was so interesting about this was how different this little was of a setup to Micah and Paul. Because Micah Paul stuff was all like, I don't know what's going to happen. And just angst and torture and just pulling out your hair. And all of this was no doubt, commitment, like this is what's happening. It was very much like solid, like oak. It was if Micah and Paul were feathers in the wind, this was like solid oak. Nothing can move this.
Yeah.
And the bulk of it was about Brett's pants. And Brett's asking for Tiffany's, hand in marriage. Like that was the bulk of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, the whole thing was just delightful. And
yes, it was.
Everybody is wonderful parents. It's just everybody. I mean, God, I mean, I love these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tiffany's dad comes in and he says, to Brett, you in it for the long haul. And then one thing they haven't talked about, I guess Brett's mom has a mental condition, which wasn't really talked about. I guess
was she there?
No.
At the wedding? Okay.
No. So whatever this mental condition is, it must be very serious. And I guess this is what brought on why their water was turned off and the electricity was turned off when he was 11 or 12. So mom must have like schizophrenia or something like so severe. Like she is either in a hospital or she's in some kind of care home or something. And
but what about the dad? Were they living with were the parents together or were they just living with the mom? Because the dad seemed pretty together.
I don't know. But the dad had a walk. I don't know. Did the dad have like physical issues? Like was he on disability? Like were they both like living off of disability checks? Was she like had a job and then eventually she had disability? I mean, two people living off disability can't, pay for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but yeah, but I thought that was very sweet with something the first time we've seen this right at this stage of asking hand in marriage. And then we see them getting ready. And then we hear Brett talking in the back. And then what's his brother's name? Is it Augustus? Angus? And then we hear Brett kind of going, oh man. And Angus is like, I look good.
This suit
fits. And then I think we see a little bit of bougie Brett come out. And we see that he is pissed because his pants are like kind of bottomy.
A little too baggy.
Yeah. And he is not happy. So he goes and finds a tailor.
Yeah, this is unacceptable. He's got to get this
fixed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So he finds, I don't know how, he finds this woman. He goes to her place, gets it tailored like an hour and a half before the wedding.
Yeah. Well, maybe they set this up because this was the only possible way they could ever get any sort of drama out of this couple.
I don't know.
Like, I have an idea. Let's like screw up Brett's pants, but we'll have the seamstress over here, like ready to fix. It'll be okay. But
maybe they asked Angus, like, what would upset Brett? I'll like mess up his pants. I'm telling you, just that'll get them all in a tither. Yes.
Yeah.
I have to say, Tiffany's, I don't normally love it when people wear crowns, like those tiaras, but I have to say, I really liked her dress with a tiara. Like the tiara worked because she had the little band around. So I really liked all that together. I think it worked well.
Yeah, no, she just looked great. And she was just beaming,
Yes, she was.
Beaming.
So everybody's happy. The pants are fixed. Brett's happy.
Yeah.
And then Marshall shows up.
Marshall came.
Yes.
That was nice. He came to, he still wanted to keep getting
Marshall.
a check from the show.
Yeah.
But I guess he and Brett were kind of close. I don't know.
No, I think he liked Brett a lot. And again, Marshall's still very confused about what happened.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, Marshall. You've got so much work to do.
Yeah. Well, that's
a whole other story.
Yeah. That's going to be the, I think in the reunion, when we finally do get to see it. Yeah. The Jackie Marshall stuff is going to be,
it's going to be good.
Okay. So then our final couple.
Well, yeah. And they say yes. And it's all great.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Foregone conclusion. Yes, of course.
Yes, they all say yes. I was a little nervous. I was like, oh God.
Oh,
but yes,
I wasn't.
They did say yes. They're very, very happy. And I think these two, this is my prediction. I think these two are going to start having kids very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Because she's 36.
Yeah.
35, 36.
So I think they're going to start having children.
Oh, absolutely.
Fast.
Yeah.
And I really hope on this reunion they tell us they're pregnant.
Yeah. So, oh my God. That would be
awesome.
Beyond.
Oh yeah.
That'd be so fun. Okay.
All right. Zach and Bliss.
I kind of stopped taking notes at this point.
Was Brett and Tiffany together?
I was swept up. I was so swept up with Brett and Tiffany that I just didn't care anymore. I was just like, okay. So maybe you can carry this.
I don't know. Again, it's the same crap, right? It's like one of them shows up and then it's like, Bliss goes, there's the charcuterie board again. And like she goes in, we have this interesting love story. Now we're having to rehash it again and we have to watch it again. And then, here's Zach. Zach has a very interesting group of friends who all seem ex-military. And you're like, how did you meet these people? I don't know. And they're all, again, like sitting around playing poker. It was so weird, the whole thing. And, her sisters and they're getting ready.
I think I fast forwarded through all of this.
Oh, but I do want to prove you wrong on something. Okay. So, Zach's sister, Alexa.
Oh, Alexa.
I told that was his sister who looks just like Bliss. I knew it. Showed up with Jean, his grandma. And so it was very sad that his mom couldn't be there today. He's missing his mom. So they're there. It's great. She tries on her dress, same as all the others through the story. And then, they walk down the aisle and they all say the same things they do. They both say, I do. I was I was kind of surprised that Bliss's dad was there because he was so vehement about, he was so angry about this.
Yeah. So she had her mom and dad walk her down the aisle.
Mhm.
And the dad is still just, he's just here. He's walking her down the aisle, saying all this negative shit,
Oh, while he's walking down, maybe I tuned that out.
Before they started walking, like they're at the end of the aisle, by the
Mhm.
door, and they're standing there, and he's still like talking shit and saying shit. And the mom is like, Bliss, look at me. Look, like she's trying to get her to focus, to divert her attention away from the asshole dad.
Mhm.
And the mom is saying it's great. It's going to be fine, whatever. This dad is a monster, and I'm glad she divorced him. And I mean, he's literally, who says this kind of shit? Just sowing doubt and being negative, like, as you're standing there getting ready to walk your daughter down the aisle. I mean, it's like, it's over. Like, just go with it.
You're here.
You're here. It's like, this is happening. He's the worst. So I just had to say that.
Yeah. I guess I missed that part. I think I was so like, oh God, let's just do this already.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get to this stage, you're like, I don't care about these vows. I don't care about any of this crapple. Like, I don't care about how, let's just hear. So they both say I do. I knew Zach was going to say I do, but I didn't. Bliss, I was a little nervous about. But then she said I do. And I was like, okay, this is good. And then I kind of teared up at the end. I kind of got a little emotional. I was like, okay, this is, Jackie and Marshall have no business getting married, so I'm glad they didn't. And Micah and Paul. And I'm a little nervous about Kwame and Chelsea, but I feel very good about Bliss and Zach.
They seem to really
Brett and and Brett and Tiffany, I think, are like, I don't know. I mean, I have to say that as we don't follow the other people, so we don't know how the other people are doing. So, we don't have any data, but I do think that if you compare it to Bachelor or Bachelorette or some of these other Married at First Sight, I've never watched that show, or any of these other dating shows, I do think that they have done a pretty good job.
Oh, yeah. Got it. Bachelor is the worst record ever. But yeah, so in this Variety article with the creator, he said that they film a lot of people outside of the pods that they don't show.
Yeah.
And then they make decisions about which stories to follow. And he said that, Bliss was really devastated. And Zach actually asked production in Mexico if he could get in touch with her.
Yeah.
And he said they had a real genuine connection. And I think it's true that he immediately regretted it. Like, he doubted himself. He didn't think that, he felt insecure and he doubted himself. And he let Bliss go. And then he realized immediately that was stupid. Because they really are. They're both sort of like these two nerdy kind of people. And you can tell even when they met in the restaurant that first time, they'd never even seen each other before.
Yeah.
And she just walked in and they just, instantly connected. And she was trying to play it cool and whatever. But, you could tell like she wanted to be with him. And then the producer or the creator, he also said about Micah and Paul, he said about her asking him to go first. He said, generally production decides who's going to go first based upon which way they feel the wind is blowing. And he says on the wedding day, he sees them before, but he doesn't ask them what they're going to say. And he says he usually has a feeling, but he's been wrong. And he mentioned SK and Raven. He said he really thought that
that one shocked
they were going to get engaged. But yeah, no, I believe in Zach and Bliss's love. I do.
Yes. Okay. Well, right now we're stopping and watching hopefully something. We don't know, but you will be now hearing us pop back up. All right.
Yeah. So we'll see you for part 2, the reunion. And we're back. This is part 2 of our coverage of Love is Blind. Season 4, we were supposed to cover the quote unquote live reunion, which didn't happen live. So anyway, it's several days later.
And we've been through a lot.
Yes. We have both watched the reunion. And, there's been a lot of chatter on the social medias. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But basically they finally, I don't know, we don't really have an official answer as to what happened or what with the live, do we?
I think the problem was that so many people were tuning in that it broke the internet. And I think what happened was that they taped it. They did what they normally do, which is they taped it and then they slapped it up, which is what I think they always do.
Right. So yeah, when it didn't work out, they just decided, actually, later that night, I was able to get on. I kept checking it and I was able to get on, and it was live, and you could click, start from the beginning. So I was able to see it the whole thing that night. But then, the next day it was up on Netflix, just like any other show. And, everybody got to see it, but, God, I don't even know where to start.
Well, my first note is Jackie and Josh aren't there. Who cares about Josh? But Jackie's not there. And apparently because both she and Josh were getting death threats.
Oh, so she claims.
But I think that's so lame. Like, why does she get to? So she's getting death threats, so she gets to miss out on the reunion.
Well, and aren't they contractually obligated?
Yeah, and then a lot of people are complaining about the Lachey's, and I understand why people are complaining about them. I want to say that not this reunion, but in the past, I liked Vanessa Lachey because I felt like back in season 2, she was asking the hard-hitting questions. I felt like she did a good job. Unlike Andy Cohen and all these other interviewers, I felt that she would ask people questions like, she would ask a question, and if she didn't get the answer, she would be like, well, hold on a second, wait, and then ask it again. And, really press people until they actually answered the question. So I liked her. I liked her interviewing skills. I liked all of that.
Yeah.
I felt like she was a little on the edge and falling off this time around. I don't know if it was having to wait around and not talk for 2 hours or anything that like she just lost her mind. Yeah. I don't know, but I thought that her interview with Jackie and Josh were just a bunch of softballs.
It was terrible. Yeah.
And so why are we so nice to Jackie?
Okay. Yeah. This is what I can't figure out, because number one, she should be obligated to be there. And if she isn't, then I know they have clauses in these contracts where you pay hefty fines if you don't go along with it. Yeah. And then, okay, I couldn't figure out what was happening. And then just today I was looking at TikTok, my source for everything. But they were saying that, like, basically the reason why that interview was so bad was because they said Vanessa really didn't have the language. She's not a therapist. She's not, a mental health, but she didn't have the language to talk about what the issue was. And that was Jackie's homophobia. Because remember, there were the texts that were leaked. Do you know about
what
this?
Texts? No.
Okay. So prior to the reunion, texts were leaked where Jackie was texting a friend of hers from Mexico. She's talking about Marshall, and she's basically saying that he's sweet. And she was saying that he did weird stuff, like he'd get on the bed and he was twerking. And I think she saw these things as being effeminate. And remember when she was telling him, you need to be more aggressive? That was really code for, like, she thought that he was, that he wasn't masculine enough, that it was a homophobic thing that she was feeling. And then in these texts, she said, well, I got to write it out, a little bit more for, oops, these things popping up. But I have to write it out for the TV or, whatever. So that leaked. And so I just think she was totally afraid to go on this reunion. And then they assigned Vanessa to go and talk to her and Josh. And Vanessa doesn't even bring it up. And really, nor could she. She's not that. She's a TV host. She, you know what I mean? Like an entertainment TV host.
Well, she is an actress. She's on NCIS.
No,
Hawaii.
I know. I'm not criticizing her. I'm just saying that she really was not equipped to address why Jackie wasn't there.
Okay. And so this is why she's getting death threats, was because of the
homophobic
comments.
Text
okay. Now that makes sense. So the leak must have been the friend that she sent the text to.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
And it was literally just like a few days before the live reunion was supposed to happen.
Got it.
So I think Jackie panicked and she was just like, I can't do this. And, because the show has never had to deal with this before. Mm-hmm. And so and I don't think the show wanted to deal with it. I don't think they wanted to open up this Pandora's box of talking about homophobic slurs. And, it was like, no, this is not supposed to be this heavy.
Yeah.
This is Love is Blind.
Well, and also after having kind of a rough, I know season 2 and 3 were season 4 has gotten a lot of praise. People have really liked it. It's been very positive. And I think that they probably felt like, oh God, no, this has been a good season.
Yeah. We don't want to ruin it now. We're not going to ruin it now. So so that whole interview was useless. And then after the interview, we go back to the live show and she kind of just turns to Marshall and she says, so what'd you think about that? Now, granted, Marshall is just hearing this for the first time, and Jackie said a whole bunch of stuff about him. I can't even remember it all at this point. We're sort of going out of order because that happened.
That happened later.
Later in the show.
I don't know if we should go back to the beginning.
Let's just, I don't know. We could finish talking about Marshall and Jackie since we're already there. But she said that, here's another problem. In that interview, Jackie said to Vanessa that her last straw was when Marshall called her a derogatory name.
Yeah, that she had a strong chin.
Yeah, when they were filling out the marriage certificate. And that's when he left for 3 days.
Mm-hmm. And we saw that on the show. Yeah.
Right. So I think he is having a transphobic, homophobic sort of type comment to her. So this is a lot. This is a lot. And it's beyond Vanessa Lachey's capabilities to address. So they just kind of glossed over it. And then,
she made some, she says she's grown since this last year. She wanted people to know that she broke up with Marshall before she had that date with Josh and the kids. And that Marshall wanted the ring back so that he could propose to a different castmate. That's
what she said.
It
was this girl named Keisha that I don't even remember, but Marshall did acknowledge
he went on one singular date with her. That was it.
And it went nowhere. So he was not going to propose to her. And so it was messy.
Yeah, it was
super messy. But yeah. And the other thing I didn't realize, and this came out when Vanessa was talking to Jackie and Josh, is that this show was filmed a year ago, long time ago. So Jackie and Josh have been dating for a year. And she confirmed she broke up with Marshall before meeting Josh at the coffee shop.
But now they live together and they've got a dog.
And they have a dog.
So it's weird. It's just like, Jackie, who struggled, seemingly struggled so much with commitment, and she had so many, it felt like a lot of meltdowns around commitment and issues and all of that. And it seemed like a lot of her issues had nothing to do with that. It had
the issue,
Marshall. Yeah. Marshall, really.
The issue was not commitment. The issue was Marshall.
Yeah.
Marshall was not the kind of, masculine man that she wanted. And instead of just being honest about that, at least, I hate to give Arena credit. At least Arena was honest about the fact that she was not attracted to Zach.
Yeah.
Okay. For that. Jackie should have just been honest that she was not attracted to Marshall because Marshall obviously likes women, but she's just not attracted to him. And so then because she's not attracted to him, she accuses him of not being attracted to women or being, these homophobic things. It's just
well, what the thing was, because Marshall was very, very sweet. He was a sweet guy and he cooked her breakfast and he did this and he was a nice guy. And I think that she didn't want to look like a bitch, basically, for dumping this sweet guy. But what happened was that you looked terrible because you weren't being honest and you confused everybody. And instead of just being honest about how you felt, you made it very confusing for everybody. And, Marshall, instead of just, I think that Marshall did, Marshall also has issues. Mm-hmm. Marshall was very controlling with things like him forcing her, wear my jacket, at that party. It's like, God, Marshall, she's not your prize or your trophy. If she says she doesn't want to wear the jacket, don't wear the jacket. Like his whole thing, like his identity around being the nice guy, he had some issues too, but if she would have just been more honest about things, it would have been so much better.
Absolutely. It didn't have to turn out this way. She could have just, in Mexico, just said, you know what? I'm just not attracted to you. I mean, Zach and Arena did it.
Yeah. And then she could have come back like Zach did and find Josh.
Exactly. No, I mean, that's the thing. This could have turned out so much better. But so, yeah, that's what happened.
That's that. All right. So let's go back to the top because I think that first they start with talking about Tiffany and Brett.
Mm-hmm.
And what we learned the last time, which is Brett lived in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So Tiffany moved down to Portland and we see them rehashing their relationship and Tiffany falling asleep. And they learn that they never stopped dating and they're happily in love. I thought Tiffany looked great. I thought this was the best she'd ever looked. She seemed, I just love what she did with her hair. I don't know.
Yeah, they're, again,
just so happy.
Tiffany and Brett, what is there to say? They're just awesome.
And then we moved on to Chelsea and Kwame. I guess they really connected there was this whole thing with the Calvin Klein underwear. I don't get it. And the pods.
I've been seeing stuff all over social media that Kwame and Chelsea are posting. They're angry about their edit. Because
the whole edit?
Well, because the edit was, and just because, we were unsure if he was going to say yes, because, and they're saying that it was edited that way, that they actually had a very fun and wonderful, engagement, and they're very much in love, and they were, of course, going to get married, and that they got a terrible edit, and they were even posting videos and pictures from their time when they were engaged. And they were like, well, this is all the stuff you didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're not happy about how their story was edited. And the fact that we all were like, oh God, he doesn't really, he's unsure, at the very least, but, no, I mean, I guess not.
Because then they get into the triangle of Chelsea, Kwame, Micah, and then Kwame goes into this whole thing of, apologizing to Chelsea and Chelsea's family and all of this stuff for his behavior. And then I guess he and Chelsea had all these conversations. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of it.
Yeah. And I guess there was some confusion because Micah told Chelsea that Kwame broke up with her, but Kwame told Chelsea that Micah broke up with him. So I don't know. I just think that was really pretty insignificant. And Kwame said that his relationship with Micah was fizzling out already in the pods, and that he had penned a breakup letter to her. And he said that he thought that Micah could obviously feel it, so she broke up with him first before he could break up with her.
But
he said he was taken aback by that, the abruptness of that.
But then he left, but he was really down in the dumps for a while. I mean, I guess, I don't know.
He didn't like being dumped, but
maybe, I guess so. And then we learned that Chelsea has now met Kwame's mom, and she went there for Thanksgiving, and she welcomed Chelsea with open arms.
Yeah.
And we learned that Kwame's sister is not a paid actress, and I never thought she was.
Well, I'm glad that rumor was false. And
Barbara is not a paid actress.
Barbara's not a paid actress, and Kwame and Chelsea have a sick apartment.
Yes. Oh my God.
In Seattle. Oh my God.
Please explain to me how a marketing guy, and she's a speech pathologist.
I know.
She cannot make a lot of money. I have clients I have one client right now who's a speech pathologist. She does not pay my full fee. Okay. They do not. How do you have a 360 view of Seattle?
I don't know.
How? I want to know.
I don't know. Maybe they have some deals going we don't know about. I mean,
God damn, I got to rethink my life. I mean, what, man? That's a sick. No, that's a nice.
It was really
nice. Have it's like a 2-bedroom bath.
Oh, well, yeah.
And Seattle, you know what? Seattle's not cheap. People think that Seattle's here in the Bay Area. People see Seattle as cheap, quote unquote cheap.
No, it's not.
It's not. Well, it is not. It's cheaper than here, but it is not cheap.
Well, they don't have children. Once you have children, your money it's gone. It gets sucked down the drain.
They take all of your money, any money that you have.
Decades.
Oh, and it never ends. It never, ever ends. And we know this because we are still taking money from them.
Yes. Take money from our parents to give to our kids.
Yes. We have to still take money from our parents to pay for our children's lives.
Yeah. No, it takes a village.
Yes, it does. It does. So now we're on to Zach and Bliss. Now, Zach and Bliss's dad are best buds.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah. And he's paying for a honeymoon. They're going to Panama, or they went to Panama.
Yeah. He said he gave him the approval, seal of approval.
She says her dad always comes around.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear because he was really scaring me. And, this is another thing that's been talked about on social media is that there are people who are on the autism spectrum who have been posting saying that they believe that both Zach and Bliss are on the autism spectrum.
Oh, interesting.
Just based upon, and even just like, how Irina was always saying, you never blink, the way that you look. And they're talking about how that's a common, trait in people who are on the spectrum. And it kind of makes sense because I just feel like Zach and Bliss have the exact same constitution. They have the exact same sort of sense of humor, the same interest. They really get each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen several posts about that.
Interesting.
Of course, it's just speculation, but it is coming from people who are on the spectrum themselves, and they're explaining the different, traits.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a reason why it's a spectrum, and there are tons of people out in the world that are right. They're very, very high functioning, high on the spectrum that can look people in the eye, that can, function in the world, that just have like a couple, a few traits, a few touches that, being tested, knowing that they have it, none of it's really going to make a huge difference in their lives. It's there, Yeah. And a little bit of like,
yeah. And
knowing it maybe is okay.
Yeah. One of the things I liked about Zach, and maybe this is part of being on the spectrum, is that Zach, like, especially in this reunion, he really called people out and, told it like it was very honest, wasn't afraid of, he doesn't give a fuck like what people think about him or any of that. Like, I loved how he really called out Irina, and he also called out Micah for like being unfair to Paul, because Paul and Zach are very good friends.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, Zach. I mean, he really was. Like, he was really sticking up for people.
Well, so
I like
next
him.
is the part about Irina and Micah. So Irina says she really came into this with a very selfish perspective. And listen, you've got to give Irina some credit, unlike Jackie.
For showing up.
She showed up. So she said she came into this with a very selfish perspective. She only focusing on herself, what she was experiencing, not what the other women were experiencing. And Bliss said that she was really shocked by the way Zach was being treated. Irina did say, she was ready to meet someone. She was there to meet somebody. There was a reason why she chose him. He was the best guy on the show for her. She had true intentions. But
no one really seemed to believe that. Like,
Nick called her out and said, Zach called her out and said, she went on the show to get famous, and he forgives her. So,
and the audience was kind of laughing at her. She kind of tried to be dramatic, and I just thought she was acting. She didn't change my opinion of her by coming on the show, but at least she came on the show. But again, she came on the show because she wanted the exposure. And I guess delusionally, she thought maybe if she showed up and, did some sort of an apology that like everything would be okay. But nobody was buying it. The audience didn't buy it. Zach didn't
You don't
buy
think
it.
It's possible that she really was, she realizes she had a very selfish perspective, that because I mean, listen, the reason is, she's absolutely right. She had a very selfish perspective. She was not thinking about the other women and what they were going through. She was only thinking about herself. That was very true. And I mean, I don't know. What else does she say in that perspective? I mean, the only other thing she could have said that would be to say, I did want to meet someone, and I thought worst case scenario is I get some Instagram followers.
I don't know. It's just so, I mean, she sent Bliss a text saying you dodged a bullet.
Yeah. She says that she regrets that.
Well, yeah, of course. She regrets all this because she never thought it would ever see the light of day.
So what was this whole thing that Irina kept talking about having panic attacks and a pillow? She was having panic attacks in a pillow. I was so confused by that because Bliss basically called her out on that, saying like, listen, Bliss didn't say this, but this was my interpretation of what Bliss was saying, which is, hey, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're saying that on one side, you're saying I'm having panic attacks and I have this issue with mental illness. And at the other side, you're saying, no, that's not true.
Yeah, Irina's credibility is really low in my opinion. I think she's full of shit. And she got caught by all these people, and Zach and Bliss, took her down.
All right. So now we're on to, and this is the other thing that I was surprised by was nobody kind of called Micah out for her behavior with Irina.
Her mean girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing was that, yes, Irina was probably the, what's the worst instigator of the two, but Irina wouldn't have been as bold if she didn't have Micah. Yeah. And so why didn't anyone turn and say, hey, Micah, you're just as bad as Irina. Like, you were just the same asshole. You sent Irina over there to kind of spy on Amber. But she didn't get any shit for that.
Well, didn't Zach give her a little bit of shit later?
Well, that was about Paul.
Yeah, it was about Paul. Yeah, no, you're right. Micah deserved the same.
She did. She was being just as awful.
She was.
In the pods as... And until Irina was off the show, until Micah had that sit down with Irina, when Micah learned that Irina and Zach weren't working out and Irina was going to be gone, and she was attracted to Paul.
Oh, that
and Micah was
horrible.
That until that moment in time when Micah started putting the pieces together, Micah was all about Arena.
Yeah.
So
right.
come on, let's call a spade a spade. So why isn't Zach giving her a hard time about that?
Well, he
And
only
why
has
isn't the
so much
Lachey's?
airtime. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, and the Lachey's, exactly. During that whole exchange, they sat there like bumps on a log.
Yeah.
Honestly, for most of this reunion, they sat there like bumps on a log. Nick Lachey looked like an old grandpa, honestly.
Yeah, Nick Lachey normally does nothing. Vanessa Lachey drives the conversation, drives it along. And that's why I like her. I feel like she does do that.
But she did not
do a good job this time around. She didn't.
No,
she was a wacko. Crazy.
Yeah, she did. She was nutso. I don't know if she was tired, hadn't eaten. This thing had gone on too long. Yeah. She was like took too many, anti-anxiety medicine. I don't know what she was weird.
Yeah,
there's no other way to describe it but weird.
So now we move on to Micah and Paul. And Micah admits that she would have said yes to Paul. And she was really hurt that Paul said that she wouldn't be a good mom. She's always wanted to be a mom. She's an only child. I guess it was really hard for her mom to conceive. And she told him very early on she's always wanted to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Paul had to clarify that because he was saying it more as he couldn't see himself as a husband and a father. What I saw was like Paul was having a very hard time articulating himself. And honestly, I think it comes down to this. I think that Paul didn't want to get married. I think Paul wanted to date Micah. I think that's what he wanted. I think he really liked her. Mm-hmm. I think he even maybe loved her. I think he did miss her when she was not around. Right. I think he just wanted to goddamn date her. And that's all he's ever wanted. He wanted
to get to know her. Yeah.
He wanted to get to know her. Yeah.
Well, that's all he's wanted. They dated very briefly in Arizona.
But I think that Micah, the problem is Micah was too hurt. I think that's the problem. And I think that, and this whole time, I think because it was so all or nothing, and I think Micah felt like it was all or nothing, that the minute he said no, it was like, that was it for them. And
Micah wanted the fairy tale or nothing.
Yes.
And that's just not realistic. It's just not life. I mean, maybe for some people it is. For Brett and Tiffany, it was, but they're very different in very different places in their lives. And that just wasn't going to work for them. They're different people.
Yeah. Because I think Micah wanted the fairy tale. I think Micah wanted to be married for a little bit and then start having kids and all of that. And I think Paul wants to get to know someone for a while, maybe then get married, then be married for a while and then have kids. And again, this is the biological clocks of a man and a woman.
He is in no hurry.
Because he can wait 20 years if he wants and then maybe wake up and have some kids. She can.
Well, and I thought this was kind of shitty. And Vanessa brought this up. And I mean, I'm sure it wasn't her idea. It was probably producers. But this whole thing with the stupid video of Paul bumping into one of her bridesmaids. Oh. And they're trying to make it look like he was grabbing her ass or something. And it was just so dumb. And it was like, really? Like, that just felt very desperate. Weird. Yeah, weird.
Well, but I guess it was out there in social media land, so they had to press it. But I'm like, of all the things
this is important. This is important. I don't think so.
Yeah, and then it goes into the whole Jackie, Josh, Marshall stuff, and then we get through the Marshall stuff.
Well, but then also too, there was Zach and Paul.
Oh, this is when Paul starts to have a hard time.
Yeah,
Paul tries to defend him.
Paul's having a hard time defending himself. So Zach jumps in, becomes his lawyer to speak for him. And he said that, the two of them Zach and Paul were talking till 2 a.m. the night before, and that Paul really loved Micah. He just didn't feel like he had enough time. Yeah, same kind of thing. Yeah. So Zach to the rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Marshall, Jackie, Josh, which we've pretty much already,
yes,
I think,
And then we get this taste of married life. You're right. We see the Kwame and Chelsea where we see that damn panoramic view. And I'm pissed out. We see Brett and Tiffany's place and Brett's shoe wall.
It's bigger now? Is it grown?
Yeah, I think so. I was like, God damn, look at that shoe wall. And then, what do we see? Zach and Bliss. Oh God, Bliss. Zach singing again. I can't with Zach and the singing. I don't stop.
Yeah, and they have the owl picture still.
Yeah.
it's the centerpiece of their home.
Yes. And then there's this backlash towards Kwame and Chelsea's relationship. And then, and Chelsea had to give one speech about their relationship and all that. I don't know. I mean,
I'm convinced. I believe in their love now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
But it was enough. Listen, there was enough there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they felt like, listen, Brett and Tiffany are too perfect.
Right. I think they had to have
there had to be something. There had to be something with them.
Yeah. No,
and they picked the 10% of the relationship that was a little complex. And, listen, the mom did not want to come. That was complex. And listen, Kwame, you did complain about this stuff a lot. And you apparently complained about it a hell of a lot more than Brett ever did.
Right. We didn't even know Brett lived in Portland until the reunion.
And then Brett mentioned something too about those pictures that he took of Tiffany's. He said, that day I drove from Seattle down to Portland for work, then drove back 3 hours down and back to see Tiffany. Like, that was a lot. Like, we did not hear a peep about that. 6 hours in the car. So, Kwame, you were very vocal about how you were how much crapola and how you weren't happy about this at all.
Yeah, no, they got a bad at it. They had to create some drama.
And your weird obsession with Calvin Klein and those underwear pictures were weird. I'm sorry.
They were weird. Now, this I felt was another disturbing part of the reunion and a disturbing thing that Vanessa Lachey
the
was
baby
doing.
Time thing.
The baby thing. Okay, so we talked about this last time. Bartise from last season has a son. He has a son.
Boy, he is really, really riding that kid out, isn't he? It's like, God, he must have
he had to give permission, I'm sure, for them to use this. But anyway, they show a picture of Bartise with his son, Hayden. And so this is a segue into Vanessa basically asking everybody, like, when they're going to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, of course, straight to Tiffany and Brett. They say they're taking their time, they're traveling, whatever.
I be trying.
But it's also, when are we going to stop asking people about that? And it maybe basically it's women, women are the ones who get pregnant and have babies.
Yeah.
So when there's that question, it's really directed at the woman. And it's just so uncomfortable because you don't know what someone's going through. You don't know if they've been maybe trying for a year to have kids and they haven't been able to get pregnant. And so they don't want to really talk about that. So they have to say, well, we're just traveling, taking our time. Or maybe they don't want to, or maybe they don't want to have kids. We don't know. It's just I just think it's such a tacky question in this day and age. And
you're right. You're absolutely right. But I really want them to have babies.
Well, but if they want to, and maybe
you're right. Listen, you are absolutely, absolutely right. You do not know what people are going through.
No.
You do not know if they want to have children, number one. And number two, there are a lot of people out there that have big, big baby issues that are incredibly painful. And just the mere someone saying, when are you going to have kids?
Oh, yeah. No,
listen, I didn't, the minute you get married, that's
right.
The next question is they ask you, when are you going to have a kid? Then you squeeze out a kid and then people are like, you can have another.
When are you going to have the next one? I know. And trust me, there have been times in my life where I have asked that question, not recently, many years ago, but I cringe when I think about it. I'm like, why did I say that? That's just so rude. Like, and she asked every single one of them. Like, she just went down the line and was like, oh my God. So Yeah, I think
So yeah,
that was
she's
kind of the end.
She's really. It seems like Vanessa. Maybe you and Nick should talk about having more kids. It seems like that's what you want, or something like that.
Well,
what's going on with
I
them?
think they have like 3 or 4 kids, so they probably.
No, she said, "Oh, I want a 4th." So they obviously have 3.
Well,
but Nick looks like he's about to fall asleep.
Okay,
so I think. You
better hurry. You better hurry.
He's just like, oh God, this is my second marriage, and I can't take this.
Well, and this also came out in the wake of the reunion, is that 1 year ago, Nick was he was arrested or charged.
Yes, I heard about this.
He attacked a female photographer. Well, he and Vanessa were coming out of a restaurant. And I mean, come on. This is not like Brad and Angelina. They are like D-listers. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they should be happy that a photographer even taking their picture, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. So it's not like literally the woman was across the street. She wasn't even in his face. She's across the street. They come out of the restaurant. She says something to him, to get him to look at her so she can take a picture. He went off. And he flipped her off, and then Vanessa said, "Go get him." And then the woman got scared. So I think she was in her car. She rolled up the window, but he was pounding on her window. And she said, he was pounding so hard, she was sure he was going to break it.
Mm.
So
Wow.
Anyway, just 3 weeks ago, he entered a diversion program. So these are programs where if it's, like your first offense, kind of a misdemeanor type thing, you can complete some requirements and then the charges will be dropped.
Mm-hmm.
So he entered this diversion program where he has to do 52 weeks of anger management.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot.
And go to AA meetings.
Wow.
Because
so he was intoxicated.
He was drunk.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow.
That's hardcore.
That is.
Because the other thing too is this photographer is not on his property. They're not coming home with a newborn baby.
They're on a public street.
They're on a public street. They are celebrities and they're leaving a restaurant. That is par for the course.
Right.
And and Nick Lachey, you have been famous for a very long time. You were in a boy band. Mm. You were part of a couple that had a show on television. You were part of the original reality show world,
right,
a quadrillion years ago. You know all of this. So why 30 years later, 25 years later,
right,
are you freaking
better
out? So to me, it feels like there's some drugs or some alcohol or some combo of the two. And if she's saying, go get him, there's something going on with the two of them.
Yeah. And she was encouraging it, I guess, and egging him on. So,
interesting.
Yeah. And then also what has been out in social media is that, so cast members from season 2 have been very vocal. You remember the couple, Nick and Danielle, who ended up getting married? I believe they're still married.
Are they? No, I think they divorced.
Oh, did they?
I feel like they did.
Okay. I don't know, but
they're
anyway,
like 10 years apart in age and she had lost a lot of weight.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, they and some other cast members have been complaining and about the conditions of this show and talking about how, they're in these pods where they're literally, they don't see any sunlight, I guess, except in the bathroom, I guess. And they made it sound like the bathrooms were outside. So you had to go out to some other building to go to the bathroom, and that the production really controls everything that they do. They don't really get enough food and water, but there's always plenty of alcohol. And somebody had passed out. I think it was Danielle said she had passed out because she was dehydrated and hadn't eaten anything. And then they kind of like revived her and then made her film a what are they, whatever they call that. And just talking about these draconian conditions and, to get people in that kind of controlled mindset that, okay, you got to do this. This is your focus. You got to go along with it. And you got to get engaged so you can get out of here.
Yeah.
Out of the pods because the conditions of the pods are so horrible. And and then they're really not supposed to talk to each other about stuff. And they're always trying to separate them and, manage and control who's talking to who and who's talking about what. So
Interesting.
Good. But anyway, I'm sure the show will go on.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure there'll be a season 5. It's probably already.
Listen, this live finale broke
Yeah.
Netflix. I mean, obviously, it's very, very popular. All these people are talking about it, and they're getting write-ups and Variety and all these other things. So
yeah,
what can you do?
It is. It's a popular show.
It is. Well, that's a wrap for season 4.
That's a wrap.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in for the Love is Blind season 4 coverage. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and review. And tune in on Tuesdays for our Sister Wives rewind. We're on towards the end of season 2. We're going back through the whole series. That's every Tuesday. And now that Love is Blind is over, we're going to, on Thursdays, talk about some documentaries.
We're going to class it up a little.
We're going to class it up a little until some other good trash show comes along. Yeah. And then we'll start covering that.
We were on another podcast. We should plug that. We were on Gen X. This is why. With Amy and Jenny. I believe they have the same last name, Archer, also sisters. We talked about the Brooke Shields documentary, Pretty Baby, another Gen Xer like us. And that is out now. So go check out that podcast, Gen X. This is why.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
We love Brooke Shields.
Yes, we do. Felt like I was going to say something else, but I don't know.
I don't know.
God, this whole Love is Blind thing, it's been such a saga. I feel like it's been, so much.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, we will hopefully.
Yes.
See you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.